All right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Well, former President Barack Obama, he addressed the nation last night from the Museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia, a location, according to one of his aides, which was chosen to underscore how the, quote, our very democracy is at stake in this election. The speech itself, it was vintage Obama. If you're predisposed to like him, you probably liked it. And if you're like me and you learned long ago that however nice things sound whenever they come out of his mouth, that his actual commitment to actually bettering the lives of Americans is far from sincere, then the things probably did not move you last night. Let's take a listen to some of what he said.
This administration has shown it will tear our democracy down if that's what it takes for them to win. So we have to get busy building it up by pouring all our efforts into these 76 days and by voting like never before for Joe and Kamala and candidates up and down the ticket so that we leave no doubt about what this country that we love stands for today and for all our days to come. Stay safe. God bless.
Obama's location, his speech, everything about him relates to the same fundamental message. Biden is running on today. Trump is a unique threat to democracy. He seemingly came out of nowhere. To the extent that anyone is to blame, well, it's pesky voters like you who weren't excited by Hillary Clinton and are too dumb to realize the difference. Or it was James Comey's letter in October, or the Russians, or WikiLeaks for releasing completely true emails. What's really eerie about that speech is the similarity in tone that it conveys and the case for Joe Biden, how much of it has nothing to do with what is good for Biden, what is good for America, only what is good for Barack Obama. He wants to protect how he looks. That's it. This is the quiet part out loud, and it was made incredibly clear in a preview of Obama's speech in the New York Times by Peter Baker, who actually covered him for 8 years and wrote a biography on the man. Baker writes, quote, while he has deep affection for Mr. Biden, advisors say the former president harbors his own concerns about his former vice president's chances this year. So another story in the New York Times about how Obama himself doesn't even think that Biden can win. So why is he doing this exactly? Well, Baker reveals the whole game later on in the story, saying, quote, Mr. Obama's determination to see Mr. Trump defeated may be as powerful, even more so, than his desire to elevate Mr. Biden. Even better is earlier in the story when Baker discusses whether Obama has ever dwelled on his own role in electing Trump. It appears he's only really done it one time. And in those first months after Trump's election, in which he told aides that perhaps the country, quote, wasn't ready yet, or maybe they went too far and the American people just wanted to remain tribal. It takes only the ego of a man like that to truly absolve yourself of all possibilities and responsibility. Obama was elected with the hopes of millions that he would end the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Instead, he added several more in sub-Saharan Africa, Libya, and in Syria. Millions more looked to him and believed his rhetoric in the midst of the worst economic crisis at that time since the Great Depression. They believed him when he said he would take care of working people and of homeowners. And instead, what we saw is one of the most astonishing accumulations of capital by the wealthiest class of America in our history. Workers losing their homes, losing their jobs, losing sons and daughters to war, lose many more to opioids. And by the time 2016 rolled around, when the president spoke, many maintained he personally seems like a good guy. But they stopped believing his promises, especially when he tried to tie his legacy to that of one Hillary Rodham Clinton. And that is the biggest flaw in Obama's strategy. We have seen this movie before, and he did not like the ending. Just take a look. How similar of a message Obama's last speech for Hillary Clinton was in 2016 on the very eve of the election.
My name may not be on the ballot, but our progress is on the ballot.
Health insurance reform becomes law.
Tolerance is on the ballot. Democracy is on the ballot. Justice is on the ballot. Good schools are on the ballot. Ending mass incarceration, that's on the ballot right now. And there is one candidate who will advance those things. And there is another candidate whose defining principle, the central theme of his candidacy, is opposition to all that we've done.
How'd that work out for you? That's literal proof that Obama cannot transfer his personal popularity to another candidate because it happened last time. My personal favorite quote is Obama saying he would consider it a, quote, personal insult from Americans if Trump ended up winning the presidency, which he said at another point during the 2016 election. And it reveals something deeper, and it's an argument I engage in frequently whenever I make big declarations like neoliberalism failed at the ballot box in 2016. Some of the neoliberals I hang out with, I don't know why, they'll say, hey, Saagar, wait a minute. If Obama had run for a third term, then he would have beat Trump. Now, I don't accept that 100%, but I accept it's certainly plausible. So how do you square those things? Well, it's like I said, Obama himself is overwhelmingly personally popular. People liked him. Many people vote on that alone. But when you strip Obama's popular patina away and you get somebody like Clinton, who embodies everything he stood for without any of his personal dynamism, and then you match that up against Trump, it still loses. That is a profound lesson that we all need to remember going forward in this election. As polls stand right now, Biden is favored to win the election. And if that happens, you are going to hear the greatest sigh of relief that you've ever seen from Washington. Every think tank, every donor, every congressman, right and left, will be absolutely thrilled. Both parties can return to the corrupt dynamic of 2012, where Republicans pretended to resist President Obama so they could raise money from their voters, and Democrats pretended that they really wanted to fix public policy problems for working-class citizens. But even worse than that is going to be the smile on Barack Obama's face. Because if Joe Biden wins, he can try to claim that the legacy he sought to protect in 2016 was championed at the ballot box in 2020. But don't let the gaslighting that we saw last night and will see in the future fool you. The circumstances of this election are absolutely extraordinary. Trump's handling of the coronavirus pandemic is historically disliked by the American people. We have not had a one-issue election in America since 1860. And the truth is that if Biden wins, the only thing anyone can credibly claim is that the American people did not like the way that Trump handled the pandemic. It is not justification whatsoever for saying that their victory will have had anything to do with Obama's own record in office. If it was really a referendum on that, then Trump would not have won in 2016. The battle for why Biden won will be nearly as important as the battle to see whether he even wins or not. And I think that that's such
really
an important point, because you see Obama and his lofty rhetoric at the Museum of American Revolution and the democracy and all of that. And you can't somebody logically ask this question: how did this guy even get elected to office? How did this threat to democracy even come to materialize? Did it have anything to do with the 8 years that you spent in office? And that headline of that Times thing says it all. Obama sees opportunity to resurrect his own legacy.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. He doesn't think Biden can win, has deep reservations about his ability to even do the job of President of the United States, and it really gives away whenever he tells his aides. He's like, you know what? Beating Trump is even more important than electing Biden, because it's all about me and how history is going to look at me.
I think it's really, that frame is going to be so important for understanding this election.
Yes.
And certainly if Biden does get elected, for understanding the arc and the scope of his administration, I think it's important for understanding why and how Kamala Harris got picked. I mean, Obama picked Hillary, right, and pushed Biden out in 2016. This time around, he was left with no other choice. He had to go with Biden. I see very much Kamala as a figure who's critical in trying to secure his legacy and lock in like the ascendancy and the power of neoliberalism for years to come. And to your point, there was this riff that he had in the speech that, you know, on the face of it, it was, as many of his speeches are, it's very well crafted. Where he's talking about rejecting cynicism, right, and saying, like, I understand why you'd be cynical.
Yeah.
But
who made us cynical? Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So many people really thought with Obama that they were voting for something different, that this was a break from Clintonism. It was a break from standard issue neoliberalism. And when you elected him and thought, okay, he's really going to end the wars, right? He's really going to do business differently. Like, he ran on, we're going to get the lobbyists out, no more corruption, all that stuff. He ran on that stuff. And then you see what you actually ended up with. That's a deep part of the reason why now, when, you know, people like him are like, just go vote. All you have to do is vote. Forget about all this social protest. All you need to do is vote. Why people are so deeply justifiably cynical and skeptical that any of these people are really going to fundamentally make a change. We quoted the calamari guy from Road.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he said it all. He's like, look, all these people, all that happens is my prices go up and the rich get richer.
Yeah,
That's
well,
ultimately what happens.
I think he nailed it. All right.
Thanks, Obama.
I'm looking forward to your radar next, Crystal.